Hey everybody, it's Jason Cruz here. I'm doing a little something different. We are talking with a comedian, and it's a big day because it's March 1st, beginning of spring, but also Ed Hill, who we'll talk to his new special, Candy and Smiley, correct?
That's correct.
Candy and Smiley will be available on Amazon Prime and other social media outlets for your perusal and purchase. So, Ed, welcome. Thank you for taking your time for this interview.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It's always nice to talk to you.
Yeah, yeah. So, tell me a little bit about this. So, we go way back to you. I think your Can Asian days, and uh, how. First of all, how have you been during this pandemic?
It's been different. I think I can probably speak for most comics. It's been a whole lot of nothing. So, and just trying to be creative and trying to, still pursue our art form as much as, we can. Been doing a lot of podcasting, things that doesn't require people gathering, doing online shows on Zoom like we're on right now. So we're doing outdoor shows when things are a little more relaxed, just trying to be as creative as possible during this time.
Yeah. Now you're based out of Vancouver, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then so when was the last time you actually toured?
My last time that I performed was actually on March 13th,
Of last year?
2020. Yeah, last year.
Oh,
I was actually in Florida 2 weeks prior, um, to the whole thing falling apart. So, thinking back, probably not the smartest thing to do, but at that time, I don't think anybody knew what was going on.
right,
So yeah, it's
right.
been a year. It's been a year of very few shows, and we're trying, but it is what it is. You just kind of have to adapt and hope that better day comes.
Yeah. So when it finally came to conclusion that you had to stay at home during the pandemic, the club borders closed, everything like that. What as because you're now a full-time comedian, correct?
Well, because of the pandemic, I had to go back to my other profession.
Oh yeah, right, right.
Prior to that, yes, yeah.
But like, did the people that you booked with, and your promoters and everything? What did they tell you? And like, was there? What were you thinking as far as your plans were going to go to continue pursuing comedy?
Well, partially, I think everyone thought it was going to be over by the summer, so we just kind of push all the dates back. I got a call from a venue in Alaska that it's called Coots. I really enjoy performing there, and the promoter is great. And I think we spoke in mid-September, and I told him, hey, I would love to come, but borders are closed. Things are still the same as back in March, so it looks like we have to wait. So I think there was that notion. We just push things back, and we just take a break, and hopefully things will come back. And seems like the break is going to be longer than we anticipated. And this also ties into the special because everything locked down 2 weeks prior to the taping of the special in Vancouver. So
Right now, so we were last actually talking about this because you were going to do a live comedy special in front of an audience, correct?
right.
And then that got pushed back, and now you actually did the special regardless of audience, correct?
Yeah, so was supposed to happen at University of British Columbia on campus. That there is a studio theater called Tele Studio Theater, which is designed to, you know, provide a space for performances like this. It's intimate, but at the same time, it's a theater, so it provides that balance between intimacy and spacing.
Hmm.
Um, but the university, closed down obviously 2 weeks prior to the taping. So I mean, at that moment, it was kind of interesting because I think the production team, my management, we actually made the decision to go ahead with the taping.
Oh.
I think at that point, I think you and I were still speaking about this event. We're actually going to go ahead with it. We thought, let's catch the we it's probably not the best way to put it, like catch the wave.
Nice.
Yeah, you're gonna catch the wave for sure.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, let's get ahead of it, get it done, and then we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right.
Then, I mean, there was a lot of hesitancy. It was
Hmm.
like, do we do it? Do we not? I mean, because I think more than just even the health orders, there's also people's psychology behind it, right? People are fearful. They don't know what's happening. So that uncertainty also stops people from coming out to things. So, we made that call, but, the health authorities finally made the decision for us. It's like, no, it's not happening. So, of course, there's the high is the high and the low is the low, and we had to regroup. And so what you see now in the special is the regroup is what we came up with, that what we can deliver in a way that doesn't lose the essence of the story.
Yeah. So I checked out the preview, and it looks like it's intimate gathering. And so is that how the special goes? If you could tell us.
Yeah. So my material, I think,
Yeah.
it's often personal, right? It's my personal experiences, being an Asian person, living here in North America, growing up in North America, and having immigrated from, other side of the world. And so one of the ideas that we thought of is like, well, since your stuff is so personal, intimacy is not really a obstacle for me. I actually welcome intimacy. I welcome, the vulnerability being with a small group of people. So the idea we came up with was the story circle idea, that we will have individual in the audience, and each individual in the audience actually has a specific relation with me. So either it's a colleague, it's a family member, it's a friend, or a coworker, so on and so forth. They all know parts of me, and so the circle then kind of provides the whole picture. Everybody knows a little bit about me, so as people join the circle and you see family members start to join, in the end, of course, my parents join, since the special is titled after them. The circle is complete. And then, the audience member can also, attempt to piece together the story from the reaction of the audience, and also the stuff, telling.
Now, when you invited, so all these people know you. When you invited them, did you kind of give them a sense of the concept, or was it just like, hey, you're welcome to attend my special?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because when I told them about it, I mean, these are my, the people close to me. So their first response is yes, of course, and we're willing to support you, and so I was very thankful for that. Which then really minimizes me having to explain what it's about. I mean, I did inform them a little bit. It's going to be intimate. It's going to be smaller, and I think they expected that because of COVID restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think what they did not expect, and this is kind of, they kind of felt it as the taping began in the first 15 minutes, is that level of vulnerability and that level of emotionality that's tied with this format. And so, we didn't shoot it continuously for the full hour, just because, there's specific, lighting and stuff we need to capture. So we kind of took 20-minute bits, like we shot 20 minutes at a time, which is another challenge, because a comic, I'm used to just running through the whole thing. And so after the first break, I kind of looked at everybody, like, everybody get the vibe? And they're like, yeah, we got the vibe, Ed. It's not, we thought we're just here to watch a show, and now, they're part of the show. As much as they're still audience members, but, that, within the circle, I think, in the bigger theater, you're connected to the story, but not in the same way as, you would be in the circle. And then they definitely, they felt the reciprocity there. They may not be sharing their own stories, but they definitely felt the emotional reciprocity.
Now, how long did it take you to shoot this whole thing? Was it over the course of one night or multiple nights? How did that work?
Yeah, we shot it over the course of one day.
So, oh, wow. Okay.
At the end of July, during summertime, when restrictions were opened up a little bit, where we were allowed to have productions, but smaller crew and smaller gatherings, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So now, I'm sure your friends and family that attended the taping, they've seen you before, and they know your comedy. How did it play as far as during the taping of the audience members? I mean, was there a feeling of how to react to something? Did they feel obliged in any way to laugh or boo or say whatnot, or were they just kind of told not to say it?
Yeah, I think we mean, of course, I talked to everybody before we all sat down, and there's this idea that, you know, you, if you don't laugh, it's over. Like this, right? Why are we doing here?
Yeah.
And and I think I think that's also when it began, the laughter actually came naturally. I think there was everyone is like, well, maybe we got a fake laugh because I mean, like you said, they know me, they know my material. However, the whole special is delivered in a way where I'm really just having a conversation with them. So I think it's beyond just the words. It's also the experiences and the emotions that's attached to each of the stories because some of them know these stories, some of them don't. So, that also creates a really interesting dynamic in the room because somebody was like, I was part of that. Yeah, I remember that. And someone's like, well, when did that happen? Like how about I wasn't invited to that thing? So that created a really interesting paradox in the whole circle, which I think also generated genuine laughter. And they also know parts of me, my personal life, so they kind of like, I think I know what he's talking about, was he alluding to. So it's interesting. I mean, it's definitely not something that's easy to pull off, I would say. Preferably I would rather do it in the club or in the theater where people are just laughing to the material.
Mhm.
But I think different times calls for different approaches.
And so your parents, I don't know, and I don't know if you could give it away, but like how did that interaction go? Was there much more of a I don't know, a critical eye from your parents when you were telling your stories?
Yeah, so my parents have never been to one of my shows.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, so this is the very first one they came, and since they came on in the end, they actually didn't get to see the entire filming because people can only allow it in when it's their turn to be a
Oh,
part.
okay.
So but they went through makeup and all that stuff. So I think they were very open to the experience. I mean, to Asian parent standards. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, right.
my dad was like, "Okay, I'll do it because you're my son, and anything beyond that, it's not happening." Um, so
Were there any looks of disapproval? Like, I don't like that joke. Like,
I don't think my dad changes his look regardless what situation it is. It's that flat face.
yeah, yeah.
Even when I got married, it's just kind of like congratulations. I'm like, okay, Dad, thank you. This is only the one most important things in my life. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's what we're trying to capture too, is them being who they are, and that's what creates the humor and creates the stories. And I'm happy they came, and it's interesting because the ending people will see is we're standing in a circle, and some of these people my parents never met. They're my friends and my family, but they haven't met everybody. They've
Mhm.
heard of them. So a big part of the ending is also them introduce themselves to other people, and then of course my brother being the idiot kind of introduced himself. I'm like, okay, really, these are your parents? Like, what are you doing? Like, come
Yeah.
on, man. Like, you just saw them yesterday. Can we not do this? But that's the dynamic that we have. And it's kind of serious, but it's kind of not.
Yeah.
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 So
So working with your parents then, was there a lot of questions from your parent, mom or dad, before this thing came? Like, first of all, asking them to be a part of it, and then second of all, once they knew, like, did you kind of have to walk them through it, or are they kind of like, oh, I got this?
yeah, I mean, most of the instructions were given by the director, so
Okay.
which is kind of I just kind of have to help them understand it.
Right.
So I mean that kind of I'm kind of glad I didn't have to take that role because well, obviously there's gonna be pushback.
Right.
Um, I mean, my dad didn't have that too many questions. My dad just asked, "Where's his contract?" And I was like, "I'm having this conversation with you. This is stupid."
He
My
wanted
mom,
to be paid. Is this a part of the
like
SAG?
that. That's really come on. And my mom, obviously had a million questions about what she should wear, what type of makeup she should do, and and then she went for well, we met with makeup artists ahead of time for her to test out her hair and makeup stuff like that. So my mom definitely had more questions about the whole actual production of things, and then when it's going to be aired. My dad didn't seem really to care. He's just like, okay, cool. We did it. You know, maybe I'll watch it. Maybe I still don't know if you'll watch it or not. So that's still a mystery. I'll find out tomorrow.
So okay, and tell us again the name of the this comedy special.
The special is called Candy and Smiley, which is after the name of my parents.
And so once they learned about that, what did they say? Were they flattered? Were they like you couldn't think of anything else? Like why put my name out? What was their reaction?
Well, my dad's reaction's always been, I think we spoke last time about my last album,
Right.
the audio called Son of Smiley. And I talk about my dad a lot because him and I really have a very interesting relationship. We're close, but we're also not close. That type of um, you know pattern. So for him, I think he wasn't. He didn't really. What's the best way to put it? Like maybe I'll talk. My mom. My mom is
Okay.
is more. Hey, this is what is this about? Am I the star? Right? She has all these questions, right? Like it's about me, right? Is this about me or is it about you? Like she had those questions. So my dad was more like, why do I need to be there if you're already talking about me? And I was like, well, yeah. So it's like, okay, well, that is about our story. And he's like, well, why don't I just show up then? Why do you need to be there? So it was.
Did he ask for payment for the name?
So it's hard to describe as to what his perception was. It's easier to see it in comparison to my mom. My mom was very involved. Like, well, am I the star? And what do I have to do? And what's the story? And my dad is just more, why is this happening? Not more existential. That understanding of the whole thing. Like, so if you're there, why do I have to be there? If I'm there, then why do you have to be there? This I don't even know how to describe it. That's just the way he is.
Awesome. Okay, so now you also have a podcast, and it's tell us a little bit about the podcast.
The podcast is called Son of Smiley. I started originally, this is 4 years ago. Just really to I have all these stories about my childhood, and growing up here, growing up in Taiwan, and stories of me and with my parents and my brother, so on and so forth. And I talk about my stand-up, but as I got older, I started to realize that I'm starting to forget them. My brother will kind of bring up sometimes when we during family dinners, like, oh yeah, there's that thing that happened. Or my cousin would bring it up, my mom bring it up, my dad bring it up. And personally, I don't want to forget them. So what I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start a diary, just so I don't forget them. But I was like, I don't want to write anything down. I'm lazy at the same time. So I'm like, why don't I just record it? I'll just say it, I record it, and then I have a record of it. And it's kind of fun, right? To be a little opinionated on them also, have a reflection. So it almost became like just an audio diary. And then as the years went by, people start, pay attention to it. They enjoy listening to it. So I'm grateful people are paying attention to it. But originally I really just did it for me. It was really isn't for public consumption. It's just more like a public diary that I'm keeping.
Right. I personally like it because it's very short. I could walk the dog and get a full podcast in of you you talking about it. So I wanted to ask you a kind of a serious question, and it relates to what's going on with the coronavirus backlash. And Jeremy Lin, basketball player, as we all know, spoke about he's a veteran in the NBA, and he still gets these anti-Asian hate related now to the coronavirus. And I wanted to ask you, as a comedian, how do you approach the subject of the coronavirus, and especially in terms of being Canadian Asian? Is this broached in comedy? Do you think about it? Have you experienced any issues related to that?
Well, I would be lying if I say I never, experienced any issues surrounding it. I also be lying saying that this is new. I mean, it's been part of my life ever since I was young. I mean, I remember 1 week being in Canada on the playground. Some kid told me to go back to China, and I'm like, I'm not even from China. I don't even know what that means. And Same, it was the same day that somebody told me that, you gotta speak English when you're in Canada. This is not China. And I was like, I just got here. Like, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. And, I remember the teacher putting, there's not very many Asians, back in early 90s when I was in Canada.
And you were 10 when you
I was 10.
immigrated
Yeah.
from
They,
Taiwan.
they, they put us, the teacher didn't know how to help me. So, she kind of put us with the other Asians, and they're not even from the same region. They don't even speak the same language, but I think the idea is that we guys look alike, so obviously you can help each other. So I mean that was the first my first experience here, and that there's been many different things that's happened. So I think with the whole coronavirus thing, I think it's really coming to the surface because I think for two reasons. Number one, there's mass exposure to what's happening to the Asian communities, and at the same time is, I think there's also elevated activity. My cousin was walking down Vancouver not too long, a few months ago in the middle of the pandemic, and somebody elbowed him in the head for no reason at
Oh,
all. It's never happened. We never get these. I can't say that we've never been attacked, but for no, apparent reason. There's just I'm just walking down the street. They're like something so mundane could evoke such a response. So, I think do I talk about it in my comedy per se specifically? Um, I have to say no because I'm not a political comic, so I don't do objective observation of what's going on in the world. That's just not who I am. I don't do a very good job of it. So I'm very painfully aware that I might botch it if I do that way. But what I purposely do, and I mentioned to very a lot of people is especially over the years, with the albums I've been coming up with and now the special, is to talk about Asians and our experiences in two ways. One is it's the human condition. We are human beings just like everyone else. We have the same trials and tribulations, joys and triumphs. And second thing is that I always paint the Asian community in a perspective of strength. That even if it's a stereotype that's floating around them, I always paint it as there's a misunderstanding that everything that happened is because we are people who's trying to do the best that we can. And I think that really changed the dynamic between me and the audience. In earlier in my career, I started quickly notice people are laughing at me, and now they're more laughing with me. And then the feedback from the audience after the shows, they can resonate. You know what? I have a moms was like that. I have dads in my family's like that. I've been to a different country before, and I had similar experience feeling out of place. So that's the way I'm trying to counter it, and providing a voice in that way. I wish I can be more more activist type of head on direct type of style in my comedy, but it's just that's really not me. So I think if I'm not genuine, again, I should do more harm than good.
yeah, no, that was very well said. I appreciate you for opening up about that. So let's get back to the selling of this Candy and Smiley. It's going to be out tomorrow. So it's Monday, Tuesday, March 2nd. It opens up tomorrow. Tell us specifically, so I don't botch this. Where is it going to be? Where can we purchase the comedy? Show?
If you like to pre-order it on some Apple TV, if you want to stream it, it's gonna be on Amazon Prime Video, I believe, Google Play, and then all the any major streaming platforms would also have a Comcast. I'm not too sure about the specific American platforms. They gave me a whole list, and I wish I can recite it, but I kind of after the first three, I'm just like, okay.
Which one do you get the biggest percentage on? That's all you need to know. Like probably, I'm thinking like your dad, probably.
I mean, I think most people are gonna watch on Amazon, so I think that's
Amazon.
the biggest outlet people are gonna go on and watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, once again, and then give us your email. I mean your Twitter and your not your email, not your email. Give us your Twitter and your website where you could also find other stuff about you and your other albums.
My website is kingedhill.com, and my really login tag is King Ed Hill. So if you Twitter, Instagram, just type in King Ed Hill, I'll show up. And my other albums are on Spotify, Pandora, all that stuff. If you just search my name, it should pop up, and I hope you enjoy it.
It's a funny guy. One last question: are you a big Kim's Convenience fan?
Yes, I am. So, one of the actresses actually lives in Vancouver, so it's nice to see local talent represented.
Oh, which one?
Janet. So Andrea.
Oh, okay. Yes. Her older sister was in the
Yes.
interview. Oh my gosh! Wow.
Right.
Well, that's
And
awesome.
they're both local, yeah. So, so it's kind of hometown pride to see people represent. At the same time, it's the Asian story. I mean, it's the Korean story, and it's just nice to see, part of the community being, story being told and represented in the way that's, it's a family story.
It's my favorite show, even though I'm in America, but it's my favorite show. I'm glad Netflix picked it up. But once again, Ed Hill, King Ed Hill.
That's correct.
Correct. Thank you very much, Ed. I greatly appreciate it. Buy the comedy special coming out on Amazon and other platforms. Thank you very much, Ed.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay.